Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Vikings Spin. I'm your host Jason, and today we're going to get to some quick hitting Viking news headlines, as well as we're going to go into mock draft 3.0, which I actually thought was going to be 2.0, but the way that Donta Foreman's pro day shaped out, that kind of altered my second mock draft a bit, and I'll get into why. And then we're also going to segue into from some of the news headlines what I think is going to go on also during the third wave of free agency. So right to those quick hitters, Mike Zimmer recently had an interview aired. It's on Vikings.com if you want to check that out. And he discussed a variety of topics. One of the topics was the right guard position, and the Vikings are apparently considering a couple of different options there. Zimmer indicated that he thinks that he has 4 out of the 5 starting offensive lineman positions filled. With the exception of right guard. So, does that mean that they will take an actual guard in the draft and just have a plug-and-play player there, or is it a possibility if they were to take somebody, if they were to take a center, would they consider moving Joe Berger over to right guard and plugging that center into play on the line? Zimmer did indicate that Berger moving over to guard was a possibility, but we'll have to see how that plays out in the draft. Also mentioned Laquan Treadwell says that this season that he's seen him, he looks healthy and that he looks poised to be a good player this year. But that he has to work on some of the subtleties of his game, but that he has the basics, a lot of the basics down. So that's good to hear. Looking forward to seeing what Treadwell can contribute this season. Also, it wasn't in this particular interview, but I think it was a few days ago or a week ago that Zimmer had indicated that even though Mackenzie Alexander is going to get the first crack at the nickel corner spot, that he was not ruling out the possibility of bringing in another cornerback. I would think that a veteran option would be looked at there, and I will actually get into that in what I think they're going to do with the third wave of free agency. Also, he mentioned the backup quarterback spot. Right now, with of course Teddy Bridgewater's status uncertain, the only backup quarterback to Sam Bradford right now is Taylor Heineke, who had never thrown a pass in the regular season. So Zimmer seemed to indicate that there would be something done there pretty soon. I'm thinking probably a veteran is going to be added. Somebody, there are some options out there, like Ryan Fitzpatrick, Robert Griffin III. So there are still some veterans on the market the Vikings can look at. I also wouldn't be surprised if they look in the draft too for a developmental quarterback in the later rounds. Also, he did touch on, as far as quarterbacks go, Sam Bradford. Indicated that he was really impressed with the way Bradford played last season. Amazing to be able to do what he did, and he thinks that with Sam participating in all the off-season programs this year and being on the team and knowing the players, that he'll be taking on even more of a vocal leadership role this season. He also spoke about Teddy Bridgewater in his rehab process. Of course, there's a video of Teddy throwing the other day, a leg brace on. And but still doesn't really have a timetable for his return. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Also, he was asked about some of the off-season surgeries that some of the Vikings had. The good news is for Latavius Murray, Harrison Smith, and Andrew Sendejo, they had surgery, but these injuries will not, this recovery process rather, will not affect them for missing any time during training camp. So it's good to hear that they'll be ready to go for the start of training camp, and that they're taking care of these injuries now rather than later. And with that, I will segue into the third wave of free agency and some of the things that we talked about there with backup quarterbacks, nickel corners. A nickel corner that I think would make a lot of sense for the Vikings to sign would be Leon Hall. Of course, he can play nickel, he can play outside, he can also play some safety, and that gives the Vikings a lot of versatility there. If Alexander is not ready to handle the nickel spot, Hall, who is a former Bengal and knows Mike Zimmer's system, would be able to come in and make a contribution right away at that spot. He's also somebody that can play outside corner or safety if need be, so he would be a valuable depth signing. And then with quarterback, we mentioned some of the guys that are on the market. There's Ryan Fitzpatrick, there's Robert Griffin III. These are guys where if you have an injury to your quarterback and you need someone to come in, it's a short-term injury, 3 or 4 games, these are guys that have started before in the league and that can give you quality games if need be. They've got experience, they have talent. They put up some good numbers in some of the years that they've been in the league. So those are the type of guys out there that I think the Vikings would target. And then there has been confirmed interest in wide receiver Rod Streeter. Of course, the Vikings right now with Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, Jarius Wright, and Laquan Treadwell being the only receivers that were on the active roster last year. That only leaves them with 4, and they usually carry 6. So there'll definitely be another receiver added, maybe even 2. So I would not be surprised to see Streeter. He's a guy that had a couple of actually had a really good second season with Oakland back in 2014. The last couple of years, they brought in some other players that he sort of got squeezed out of the depth chart there, and after battling some injuries, and then he wound up in San Francisco last year. San Francisco had kind of a mess at quarterback last year, so he didn't really get a lot of opportunities to showcase his skills there. But he's a guy that ran a 4.36 or 4.37 40-yard dash at his pro day when he was coming out. I believe he's 28 or 29 now, so he's still got downfield speed, 6'3". He's a guy that fits the profile of a field stretcher that Zimmer's been talking about wanting to get for this roster. So wouldn't surprise me if Streeter's added. And with that, I will let's go into the mock draft 3.0. I still have the Vikings taking Dan Feeney at right guard, so that really hasn't changed since my first mock. In the 2.0, I actually that I had tweeted out, I had the Vikings taking Deonta Foreman, but Foreman ran a 4.45 40-yard dash at his pro day, so that lends me to believe that he's going to be a second-round pick, and will probably not even be there when the Vikings go for their second round pick, where I have them taking Phoenix. So, as much as I would have liked to see it, I just don't think he's going to be available at that pick. So in the third round, I'm going back with Samaje Perine at running back, who's still a very solid player, had the most bench reps out of any running back, so a very strong, powerful power back type of runner. I think he'll be there in the third for the Vikings to take, and you can pair him with Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon. You have a really solid backfield, I think. The second, third round pick did not change. I still have Gerald Everett there at tight end. The fourth round, this is one that I switched up from my first mock. Julian Davenport, an offensive tackle. I think he can be a swing tackle right away, behind Leaf and Remmers. But Davenport has the upside, I think, to develop into a starter sometime soon. I think Reef is definitely looked at in the long term at left tackle. Remmers, he signed a deal where if things don't quite go as planned, they can cut bait after a year or two without too much penalty. But also, not even suggesting that Remmers wouldn't do a good job, but he's also has the ability to play guard too. So even if he, wasn't not playing well, but maybe better suited for guard, you could always kick him inside and have Davenport as a potential future right tackle there. But that's getting way ahead of ourselves with these projections. But I do think that would be a good pick there. And then in the fourth round, second pick, I stuck with Elijah Lee at outside linebacker. Round 5, switched it up there. Jaron Jones is a defensive tackle that I really like there, with some really good size, a lot of batted passes with him, with Jaron Jones. Round 6, Cooper Rush at quarterback would be a nice developmental prospect there. And then I have round 7, Austin Rico. I had him originally in the 6th, but in this draft, we're going to put him at 7. So thanks everybody for joining. That's the end of this episode here today. Check us out on Twitter and Facebook, and thanks again for listening.